This makes Watergate look like small potatoes. Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow, Hoover Institution. They are all caught, irrefutable evidence. They should all go to jail or it will never stop. Nobody will believe the evidence, which is overwhelming. Make America great again. That is from Trump's Truth Social, and that is on his that is just from the last 24 hours. Clay, we should remind everybody. I don't think we played this yesterday. I think it's worth playing today. Just how dedicated the media was to propagating this lie of Russia collusion back during
We
the.
played this in the first hour. If you
Oh,
want to
sorry,
play
we
it
did play in
again,
the first hour. Sorry, so we have been following up on this one, and we're looking more closely, I think, at the possibility of some kind of accountability maybe happening. But we got a lot of these emails coming in. Like Jeff, he writes, so you're saying that all these crooks will face no consequences because everybody does bad stuff. If the parties were reversed and it was a Republican that did the things Obama and the others did, guarantee the Democrats would go for jail time. But we Republicans can't do it. This is ridiculous. Love the show otherwise. Jeff, we're not saying it's because everybody does bad stuff and so stuff just happens. And we're not saying we disagree with you that Democrats are much more willing to go for the jugular, especially weaponizing the system to go for the jugular, than Republicans are. We're just saying, based on what's been laid out, it's going to be a challenge to get any actual consequences for any of the people involved in Russia collusion. That's it. This isn't I'm not saying I don't want them to be charged. I'm saying it will be difficult to charge them and even harder to convict them based on federal law. And I just think that's where this is. Because the other side of this, we could say, oh, yeah, Brennan, you're going to frog march him out of his house and he's going to end up spending years in prison. And people would say to us in a couple of months, Clay, well, maybe people will just forget that this conversation even happened. But they'd be saying in a couple of months, why did you guys say that? Why did you say that there was going to be justice and there's no justice? We're not saying that. It's because I don't see it, but I could be wrong.
anger is not a strategy. So most people will only play on anger, and that's fine. That is a strategy that works on social media. I'm mad. And then you say, okay, what's your plan? I always say anger is an emotion. You need a plan that channels the anger in a rational way. So I step back dispassionately and say, as an attorney, okay, what are the methods by which you could channel this anger into charges that lead to a significant punishment? Because I think for most people, the strategy should not be anger. You know, toddlers are angry. They throw tantrums. Buck, you're going to find out about this quite a lot. But their tantrums often have no tangible direction. So I don't want to be a toddler. I don't want to be just walking around throwing a tantrum. Here's a tangible action that happened yesterday. Trump ended men competing in women's sports in the Olympics based on his executive order. They looked at the issue. We don't think men should be competing in women's sports. They analyzed, thanks to the talented people he has around him, the relevant statutes, the executive order powers that he had, and he basically ended it. Now, we're still going to have court cases surrounding it because anytime the president does anything, somebody challenges it, they don't like it, and the court cases transpire. But the reality is men competing in women's sports was ended. They found they were angry about it, as you are, as many of us are, and they said, we're going to solve it. So if you are angry about what you saw, I look at this because I can make the arguments in both directions as I think a criminal defense attorney would. And based on all the documents that I have read, and I've read a lot of them, what the clear argument is going to be is, look, there were differing interpretations about exactly what the impact of Russia's attempt to influence the 2016 election were, right? What were the impacts? One hand, virtually nothing. I think that that's the reality. I think you can go back and look and say Russia did not in any way, I don't believe, impact that Trump won in 2016. I think most of you probably agree with that. The other is, hey, they changed election totals. I don't think anybody's arguing that they hacked and changed election totals, but Democrats are smart. They use the phrase hacked. Much like they said 51 intelligence agents, remember the way it has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation? They know the media are morons and will carry their water. So they are very strategic in what they put out there. How quickly has all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation for the Hunter Biden laptop get laundered into this is Russian disinformation almost immediately because they skipped right over the language. Hacked can mean many things. They did hack Hillary Clinton's emails. By the way, didn't Russia hack or China hack a lot of Trump's emails and Trump's team in the 2024 election? You could speak to this better than anybody. How much of the time do foreign adversaries spend trying to get access to voicemails, to emails? Like, it's all they do, right? They hacked, if I remember correctly, J.D. Vance's cell phone. China did. And he even came out and said all they got were a couple of information messages that were text because everything else was on the cloud. And Apple actually has pretty good protective mechanisms as long as your phone remains in your possession, such that it's hard to actually see what those text messages are. My point on this is I think we have laid it out. And I think there are people out there who are going to tell you the opposite because they just want to play on your anger and they're not going to the next step of how does it happen. I think it's important for the historical record. I think that everyone should understand what they did, but I think the odds of them being arrested and charged with crimes are low. Part of this is because they have a kangaroo court in their favor. DC is the best possible venue if you are a Democrat to try to hold a Republican accountable because 95% on people on any jury pool are going to be voting Democrat and they don't like Republicans and they will hold you accountable. If Washington, D.C. were located in somewhere like, I don't know, South Alabama in a rural district, yeah, the grand jury would indict Obama. This is forum shopping. There are lots of places. If I could find the county that voted 90-10 for Donald Trump, would they indict Obama on this evidence? Yes. Obama would then argue it's within presidential powers. And I think the Supreme Court would come down on his side just like they came down on Trump's side. I think it's going to be very hard here. Now, leaking classified documents, I think based on all the evidence I've seen, that's the best case. Buck, how does that go?
It's super hard to prove that. It's incredibly hard to prove that. It really, and the Obama administration went after people very, very aggressively on that front and had limited success, to be clear. So, and trying to go after senior level officials for that stuff is, it can be a challenge. So I don't see that talking to the press about different things because they're going to say, yeah, I talked to the press. A lot of people talk to that, unless you have a recording of somebody or they were dumb enough to put it in text or email, you're not going to get them. I mean, that's, again, this is just the way it works, right? People can be frustrated by it. They can be, but just having a conversation, if you're the CIA director with the head of the Washington Post, national security desk or whatever, that's not going to get you a conviction. It probably wouldn't get you a charge. So there's challenges with this. I wish it were not so. And I think that Trump talking about it is getting everybody on the same page about just how egregious it was. But I mean, here's Victor Davis Hanson, by the way. I mentioned this. This is cut 5. Play it.
They wanted Donald Trump's administration to fail, and they wanted to destroy him career-wise, presidential-wise, psychologically. They wanted to destroy him. And so they went through the collusion false narrative in 2015 and 16. That failed. They took a little breath. Then they ate up 22 months and $40 million of his administration to destroy it. Then they took a little breath and they went into the first impeachment phony Zelensky phone call and Vindman and the quote-unquote whistleblower. And so this was a 3-year project to overturn the will of the American people and to destroy administration. Makes Watergate, as people have remarked on, look like small potatoes.
It's all true. It's all correct. I just to be clear, I agree with 100% of what Victor Davis Hanson just said, and I've agreed with it all along, and I've been saying it all along. Now what do we do about it is the question, or what's going to be done about it is actually the question we're addressing today.
I may be in the minority here, too. This is all very significant. I think the 2020 election rigging was far more significant than the 2016 allegations because I don't think anything in 2016 changed the outcome. I think the decision to argue the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop wasn't real. I think the 51 intelligence agents there, I think that actually swung the election. right? If you told me right now, Clay, what are you angrier about, the fallout of 2016 or what happened in 2020? By far, I am angrier about 2020. Now, we're going all the way back to 2016, but remember, the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop in their possession, knew it was 100% real, and yet allowed the New York Post story to be treated as if it were Russian disinformation. Now, what they were smart about, and they're smart about the way they seed narratives, man, they already had put out there Russia wants Trump to win. So 2020, their protective cloak for anything that was negative about Biden was what, Buck? This is just Russia disinformation. We're not going to let them hack 2020 like they did 2016. They are just diabolical, man.
Yes,
and a part of
that
it,
is
you have
true.
to step back and just say, man, the stories they tell and the narratives they build are so compelling, and they act on them, and they're nastier, and they're willing to do things, frankly, that I think in general Republicans are not. I think that's the reality.
Maybe Trump changes that now. That is possible. Maybe Trump decides the gloves are off. That could happen. Hasn't happened yet with this kind of legal, let's be honest, counter lawfare. That's really what we're talking about. Counter lawfare. Maybe that changes. We shall see. You know, there's more than one name for people who steal online identities and make money off of them. The polite name is cyber thieves. Well, the less polite terms, you can think of what those are. Call them what you will. These criminals crack into company databases and create phony identities with the info they steal. These are the modern day bank robbers, my friends. Cops have a hard time finding them. A lot of the time, they're offshore. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting all of our lives, and you need to protect yourself with LifeLock. LifeLock detects and alerts you to potential identity threats you may not spot on your own, like loans taken out in your name or unwanted credit card charges. And if you do become a victim of identity theft and you're a LifeLock member, you can rely on a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist at LifeLock who will work with you to fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. I've got LifeLock. You should have LifeLock. Join now. Save 40% off your first year with promo code BUCK. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to lifelock.com. Use my name, Buck, as your promo code for 40% off. Terms apply.